Inflation is the rate at which the general prices of goods and services in an economy rise over time, reducing the purchasing power of money. Simply put, as inflation occurs, your money buys less than it did before. For example, if inflation is 3% annually, an item that costs $100 today would cost $103 a year from now. Inflation is measured using price indexes, such as the Consumer Price Index, CPI, or the Producer Price Index, PPI. The CPI tracks the average price of a basket of consumer goods and services, including essentials like food, housing, and transportation. If the CPI rises, it indicates that the cost of living is increasing, signaling inflation. There are three main causes of inflation: demand pull inflation, cost push inflation, and built-in inflation. Demand pull inflation happens when demand for goods and services exceeds supply, driving prices higher. For example, during economic booms, increased consumer spending can outpace production, leading to higher prices. Cost push inflation occurs when production costs, such as wages or raw materials, rise, and businesses pass those costs onto consumers. Built-in inflation refers to the cycle where rising prices lead to higher wages, which then lead to even higher prices. Moderate inflation is considered normal and even healthy for an economy. Central banks, such as the Federal Reserve in the U.S., often target an inflation rate of around 2% per year to encourage steady economic growth. Inflation motivates spending and investing, as holding onto cash becomes less attractive when its value decreases over time. However, excessive inflation, known as hyperinflation, can destabilize economies. For instance, during hyperinflation, prices rise so quickly that money loses its value almost immediately, as seen in historical cases like Zimbabwe in the late 2000s. On the flip side, deflation, or falling prices, can also harm an economy by reducing consumer spending and slowing growth. Central banks use monetary policy to control inflation. To curb high inflation, they may raise interest rates, making borrowing more expensive and reducing spending. Conversely, to combat low inflation or deflation, they may lower interest rates to stimulate economic activity. Inflation affects everyday life in significant ways. For instance, if wages don't keep pace with inflation, people lose purchasing power, making it harder to afford essentials. On the other hand, inflation can benefit borrowers, as the real value of their debt decreases over time. In summary, inflation is the rise in the price level of goods and services, eroding the purchasing power of money. While moderate inflation supports economic growth, excessive inflation or deflation can create challenges. Understanding inflation and its impact on the economy helps policymakers, businesses, and consumers make informed decisions to navigate changing financial conditions.